Okay, so in this video we're now going to look at the central heating of a home. Up to this point we've been talking an awful lot about hot and cold water supply for domestic use, and we said several times that domestic use was used for washing, cooking, drinking and just general use inside the home. That was one of the main functions of the plumbing systems. The other function of the plumbing system in your home is to provide heat to the home. So as well as having a network of pipes in your home supplying domestic water, there's also a separate network of pipes supplying hot water to your radiators in your home, which will provide heat to the home. Alright, so this is the last diagram that we looked at, was the indirect hot and cold water system. The appliances are all still there in the home, obviously. The boiler is the only system really that's kind of relevant to the central heating of a home. The hot water cylinder, the cisterns and all those, they're all separate to the central heating system. The boiler is what's going to provide the heat for our central heating system. Obviously there'll be a supply of water come from one of the cisterns to the boiler, but that's, other than that, there's nothing else really involved in it. So usually out of this side of the boiler, another network of pipe from the boiler, the network of heating will be supplied. Okay, so we'll just go and look at, just like the indirect and the direct cold water systems, there's two types of plumbing systems that go throughout your radiators, and they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So we'll look at the first one here. Alright, so this is called your one pipe system. So what we have is the boiler here. So if you can imagine, if I just go back to that diagram there, we're going to say, let's pretend there's some radiators going off this direction. Obviously your house could have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 radiators. For the sake of our diagram, we're just going to say there's 3 radiators that are being supplied with hot water. Alright, the one pipe system. Alright, so your hot water, your line of water comes down from the cistern into the boiler heats up the water, and your hot water comes out of the boiler. It goes into the first radiator, wherever that is, closest to the boiler, maybe in the kitchen or wherever else, depending where your boiler is. The water will pump through the radiator, that hot water, and heat that radiator, and that'll heat your room. The water comes out of the other side of that radiator, down and up into the next radiator. Heats this radiator, it comes down, up into the next radiator. If there's more radiators, the same things happen. So the hot water is constantly going up, down, up, down. By the time it gets to the third or fourth, whatever radiator, it starts to cool down. When it gets to the last radiator, the cooler water is pumped back into the boiler and it's heated up again, and the network goes all the way through. Okay, that is the one pipe system. Now, just like, I suppose, with the direct and indirect system, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. The one pipe system is a slightly more outdated system, and it probably has more disadvantages than it does advantages. Alright, so if I was to look at the advantages and disadvantages of the one pipe system, we can just look here. It says advantages: lower cost, ease of installation, low maintenance requirements. This is a simpler plumbing system than the next one that we're going to show. So it's going to have lower cost and easy to install. Now, the disadvantages here, there's a temperature difference between the radiators, and there's reduced control over the radiators. This is a major problem with this system, and it's basically the main reason why this system is outdated and not used anymore. This hot water comes out here extremely hot. It comes into the first radiator gets really good heat. Inevitably, it's going to start to cool slightly by the time it gets to the end of that radiator. It comes up here into the next radiator, it's a slightly lower temperature. Going through this radiator, it comes out, it's cooler again, and then this radiator is not getting as much heat as the first one did. And if there's 3 or 4 or 5 more radiators, as it goes through each radiator, the temperature is going to be cooler on each one. So it's an uneven amount of heat going through the radiators. The first 1 or 2 get great heat, third or fourth it starts to cool cooler and cooler. By the time it gets to the 5th or 6th radiator, it's not very warm at all, and your water goes back in. It heats up again. It heats the first one very well, second one not too bad, third one, and so on, and it gets cooler as it goes on. That's a major disadvantage to that system. So you don't have as much, there's a difference between the radiators in temperature, and there's reduced control over those radiators as a result. Okay, so that's the one pipe system, a little bit like the direct system. It's a little bit outdated. There's more disadvantages than there is advantages. This central heating two pipe system is a more popular method nowadays. Alright, so it eradicates the disadvantages that we had with the one pipe system. The water is heated in the boiler, the hot water comes out, it goes into the first radiator, heats up this radiator, the cooler water comes out, and it actually, there's a second piping system, that's why it's called a two pipe system. It comes out, goes around that, and it comes straight back there. So the hot water goes up in there, and up in there. So basically the hot water is coming out is going into each radiator evenly, and as it networks its way through it, when it cools, it doesn't go back into the hot water pipe, it bypasses that, it's a second pipe, and it comes back in. Same here, hot water goes in here, cooler as it comes out, it bypasses it and comes back around. Third one, same thing, fourth, fifth, and so on. That's why it's called a two pipe system. The second pipe just comes out and back into the cold network. So there's a more even heating of all of those, because as we said, that hot water goes into all of these pretty much straight away, and the cooler just comes back in to heat up. It's a much more efficient and much more even heating system. Advantages and disadvantages of the two pipe system. Advantages: radiators operate at the same temperature, radiators heat up at the same time, and there's greater control over the individual radiators. All of those three advantages are simply because the cooler water coming out does not go back into the hot system, it goes back down there and in there for heating. Okay. Disadvantages: higher cost, there's more materials, takes longer to install, right? Inevitably, with a slightly more complicated system, only slightly, there's going to be a bit more of a cost because of the extra labour involved and because of the extra materials and pipes and so on that are needed. Right, so just to go through drawing up these two systems. In an exam type situation, we want to be able to draw them up. So with the heading there, central heating, I'm going to draw up the one pipe system first, and then we'll draw up the two pipe system. I'm used to using my pencils, red, black and blue pens. Blue pen for cold water, red pen for hot water, black pen for maybe any writing or whatever else, and I generally use a pencil to draw in the appliances and the components. So we're not going to overthink sizes too much, alright, or positions, but everything I draw, when you're drawing it, draw it a similar size in a similar position. So I have roughly marked off a few things for myself. This is going to be my first radiator, my second radiator, and third radiator. So these are just some of the components and appliances that are needed. I'll use my black pen to label those. So we've got a boiler, radiator, radiator, and radiator. Alright, okay, so the one pipe system, as we said, there's one network of pipes coming all the way around each of those. So what I will do is I'll take a red hot water line over the top of the boiler. That's going to run all the way across, and then up from that we are going to run hot pipe into the first radiator, and that hot pipe comes out and back into the one supply pipe. Alright, underneath your radiators to the left and to the right, you'll see those pipes going down. The actual other network of pipes will be underneath the ground. So the water comes around here, up, supplies the radiator, and out, and leaves the radiator. And the next one, up, and supplies the radiator. By this stage the water's gone quite cool, so I start using the blue pen. Technically you could argue it's kind of getting cooler already there, but just for the sake of the diagram we'll take the cold water out of the last one. We'll take a line down there. That's going to run across here and then down and into the bottom of the boiler. Okay, so as we all know, this network of pipes is underneath the ground, underneath the radiators. So the hot water is going to come out there, up into that, back down, up into that, across, up into that, up into that, and then the cooler water starts to come down. So it's a one pipe, one way system basically, all the way around. And we know it's more disadvantageous than it is advantageous. Okay, so again, just to draw up the two-pipe system, I just prepared it already. So again, when you're drawing this, you'd have to draw in those appliances all yourselves. But we'll start to look, I have those drawn up for the sake of the video. So what we'll do then, just like the last one, we will take our hot water and we'll run that across each of the radiators, and we'll supply the water first of all. So that water is supplied to each of them, like so. Alright, I might just take out the cold water here out of the back of the last one. I'll take this down and run that across there, and then just run it into the bottom of the boiler, so we'll bring it down and across. Now, one more thing to get this two-pipe system working properly. Hot water in, it's cooler, that's right, it's gone cooler, so we'll use a blue pen just to kind of emphasize the point we're making. Rather than go back into this one pipe, like the previous system, that comes down, around that, remember that symbol, and back into the cool, so it's going straight back in to be reheated. Same here, down, around, and straight back in to be reheated. If there's a 4th, a 5th or a 6th radiator, which there more than likely would be in a house, they're all bypassing that and helping that system work. So your hot water comes out, cold water, and the cooler water runs down. The hot water goes in, the cooler water goes down. The hot water goes in, cooler water goes down, meets these pipes, that's fine, and it works its way back into the boiler. Okay, so just like the indirect system, this one is more advantageous, it's more efficient, and it just generally works better. And again, that is most likely what is inside your homes as well.